Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our latest Stay Connected webinar. This morning we will be covering our ERS Prestige offering. Now, just some housekeeping before we start. You would have noticed your mics and cameras have been switched off. We also suggest closing any background apps you may have open just to ensure smooth connection to this morning's webinar. Please feel free to ask any questions you may have throughout using the question box function found on your control panel. We obviously will look at these at the end and try and answer as many as possible. Now, moving swiftly on, just some introductions to start with. My name is Theo Amirbeg. I am one of the broker development support execs, and today we are joined by our Prestige product manager, Annie Ward, as well as one of our senior underwriters, Gary Tuppen, both of whom will be covering some slides today, and of course answering those questions you have at the end. Now, before I do hand over to Gary, today's session will be roughly 20 minutes long, with around about 10 minutes at the end for questions. Without further ado, over to you, Gary.
Thanks, Theo. Morning, all. So today we're just going to give a bit of an update, really, I guess, around what we're seeing in the Prestige sort of high net worth market. So you see on the slide there's a few sort of bits and pieces I'm sure a lot of you would have seen sort of in the press and on LinkedIn and other sites. The main ones really that sort of impacted the economics of the Prestige motor market this year, I'd say to date. Vehicle theft is a big one, so we're going to cover that in a bit more detail today. Obviously vehicles like Range Rovers, sort of typical 4x4s, I think have caused issues sort of the last few years and probably beyond that. But what we've seen this year is an emergence into sort of some of the true supercars and some of your real sort of luxury brands, particularly in sort of bigger cities. So sort of vehicle security, overnight locations has become sort of even more important. So we'll cover a bit of that off today as well. There's a lot of instability in the market. Again, so a few bits there, obviously with takeovers and sort of the merging of other markets. There's probably less and less markets now out there to write some of these high net worth motor risks, the likes of Conveyor pulling out, Azure being acquired by Aviva, sort of changes in appetite from other markets has created a lot of churn, I guess, in terms of quotes and sort of renewals that may have sort of stuck with similar markets in the past. So that's definitely kept us busy. We've also seen increasing sort of distribution channels. So the way that a lot of insurers trade now, particularly sort of online. Again, we have our own e-trade portal, which we'll cover off and touch a bit on today. We've seen a lot of the online markets sort of, I guess, merging into the appetite of where the true high net worth insurers have lived in the past and where we sort of pitch ourselves. So again, that's been a bit of a challenge with some of the rates that the online markets are putting out there. Vehicle availability is another one. So obviously sort of post-COVID, it's never really returned to the same as it was prior to that. So we're still hearing stories of dealers struggling to get vehicles out to clients still sort of on waiting lists to get new vehicles. In addition to that, sort of vehicle parts repair times are still sort of above where they were pre-COVID. And on the back of that, claims inflation. So the cost of, obviously everything has gone up recently, but in terms of claims, what we've seen is the costs go sort of above and beyond that. So we've sort of long-term care driving claims costs up, cost of parts, cost of hire, where vehicles are sort of in repair as longer waiting for parts, has really pushed things up. And finally, electric vehicles. So something we've done for a few years, but we know the demand is sort of growing pretty quickly, and obviously that's the way it's all going to go. So we like to think we're pretty well placed, having dealt with them for a number of years, and we sort of understand the mechanics of what is involved, particularly on the claims process in terms of dealing with electric vehicles. So that's sort of what we're seeing in the market. Next slide. So this is just an overall view, I guess, of our risk appetite and what we write. So all risks that come into us are manually underwritten. As I said earlier, we do have an e-trade portal, so you can submit risks that way as well as manually. We have four main products. So we have our supercar product. That's very much as you'd expect, set up towards supercars, hypercars, your sort of luxury top-end vehicles. And in that, we do write a lot of the electric vehicles as well, sort of new Porsches, the Mercs, etc. And we say that to fit that appetite, vehicles have to be 75,000 or more. And we're happy to look at those under our supercar offering. What we've really seen growth in probably the last couple of years is collections. So I think previously it's probably fair to say we were seen as a bit of a market for one or two of those sort of punchier supercars that maybe other markets shied away from. What we've really sort of won on, I guess, the last couple of years is rounding out the collection. So not only writing that lead supercar or two, but the classic cars, the everyday cars, maybe the odd van that clients have. So rounding out all those vehicles in one policy and one renewal date. So on those, as long as there's one vehicle 75,000 plus, again, we can look at everything the client's got off the back of that. What we'll see on those is that we prefer policies with more vehicles and drivers, just because there's less on-road exposure. So that allows us to be a little bit more competitive in terms of sort of rating those. Then we've got a sports and entertainment product. So this is set up for anyone in the sports or entertainment world. So whereas supercar, it's very much, does the vehicle fit? This is, does the client and the occupation fit? So anyone in that world. And on that side, it doesn't matter whether they're sort of high-end vehicles, everyday vehicles. If that's the occupation, then we can hopefully look to provide a solution for that. And then finally, something a little bit different, our overseas scheme. So this is where you get guys and girls coming from abroad, may come over for a month, 2 months, 3 months, bring some high-end vehicle with them, Lamborghini, driving around sort of Mayfair, London, staying in the nice hotels before they ship it back to the Middle East, wherever they come from. So again, we're happy to have conversations around any risks like that. And then why ERS Prestige? So ERS is a Lloyd's A-rated insurer syndicate. We're motor only, so this is what we do day in, day out in terms of sort of providing the knowledge and expertise with some of these vehicles. We're not going to chase you down for sort of the portfolio or the household or anything like that. This is solely what we do day in, day out. We have a dedicated Prestige team in terms of the underwriting and the operations side. So again, this is what all the guys do day in, day out. So they're not getting sort of dragged in different directions. Their sole focus is to provide the best service for yourselves and your clients. We've also got the same on the claims side, which Annie will come on to, but we have a dedicated claims team there who handle claims from sort of cradle to grave. So again, that's their sole focus. And then finally, we like to think we can provide tailored and efficient solutions. So we're more than happy to sort of discuss risks if you need us to be flexible in terms of the benefits, excesses, certain drivers named on certain vehicles, in terms of what their experience sort of allows. Then again, we can do all that. And then finally, we have our e-trade portal, which is now up and running, which hopefully some of you have used. And again, we'll come on to a bit more around that. Before we do, we've just got a couple of quick polls. So this one is, do you use e-trade for Prestige for your high net worth clients? Nice and simple, yes or no. I'll give you a few moments. And then the second one, for those of you that don't use ERS e-trade, just to tell us why, I guess. So there's a few options there. And again, I'll give you a few moments to select one of those, and then what we'll do is we'll take those away individually, and we can come back to you on anything that's maybe proving a bit of a blocker. Thank you. And then this is just a view, I guess, of the online trading that we've sort of been working on via the E-Trade portal. So the online trading, for anyone that hasn't used it, it's a way that you can submit quotes to us. It allows us to be more accurate around the pricing of risks, so all the information, the fields that you have to fill out are there. So as soon as that drops through to us, we've got all the information rather than having to come back to you and ask for bits or pieces that may not be on the submission. Speed to market is the big one for us currently. So where you send a manual submission to us, that basically has to get loaded by a team of our ops guys. They work through that list as and when quotes come in, whereas if you input a quote onto E-Trade, that basically sort of skips that queue, I guess, and falls straight into the team of our underwriters. So underwriters can pick that up much quicker and turnaround times will be much more improved. And then finally, once you've submitted a quote and a policy via E-Trade, you can then manage the MTAs and renewals pretty smoothly and put any requests in that way, again, rather than having to pick up the phone, send emails, etc. And then just on the right, you see 38% of our new business is now traded on E-Trade. We've got a high number of brokers now using us, 446. And yeah, a good chunk of our quotes, as I say, are now coming in via the E-Trade portal. And then finally, for me, this is just a view of our team. So hopefully there'll be a few guys and girls on there that you would have spoken to or dealt with in the past. So you've got Annie, who heads up as product manager. You've got myself as senior underwriter, who deal with a lot of our national brokers, as well as sort of day-to-day in-house referrals from the team. Then got Sam Prever, who looks after the South, Jim Neild, who looks after the North, and Mark Suffield, who looks after the Midlands. Then you've got a team of underwriters based across our London and Swansea offices. And then at the bottom there, you've got our claims team, as well as Jenny, our marketing manager, for any marketing needs you might need. So yeah, all the contact details are there. Happy to have a discussion with anyone afterwards about sort of pointing in the right direction, but these are the guys that you need to be dealing with for any queries. So that's it from me. I'm going to pass over to Annie just to cover off a bit more about our claims service.
Cool. Thank you, Gary. Morning, everyone. So I'm going to speak to you a bit more around our claims proposition. When designing sort of our prestige product back in 2017, we recognised that claims was going to be a really important feature of that. And we sort of looked across the high net worth market and what our competitors do, and came up with the main areas that we, but also that brokers fed back as being really key and important to customers. So just to share what some of that looks like in practice for those that maybe don't trade with us at the moment. So the key themes that we really push forward are a fast, efficient access to a dedicated prestige handler. So what that means in reality is that the handlers that you'll speak to on prestige claims are only dealing with prestige claims. So they really are experts in the product, in the wording, and a lot of them are actually experts or enthusiasts, vehicle enthusiasts themselves as well. So really good people to talk to, and we also assign a claims handler to each claim that comes in as well. So it just means you've got that single point of contact, you know who to talk to as each claim progresses. And finally, we also aim to answer calls within a minute, just to make sure we really are on the other end of the phone when you need us throughout the claims process. Secondly, we have regular check-ins. So what that means is we try and be really proactive in our approach. So rather than you or your clients chasing us for updates, we try and proactively give you updates throughout the claim. So we have checkpoints where we'll let you know things are happening. So for example, if a vehicle's gone into repair or the repairs are complete, we will proactively let you know that information. So if you're getting chased by your customers, you know where we are with that claim to give that information to them too. We also do say if you would like us to go back to the customer directly at the same time, then that's an option as well. That's something to talk to with the claims handler on each individual case. Thirdly, because we are a motor-only insurer, the benefit of that is that we have a nationwide repair network who use genuine parts. So there's never a garage too far away from our customers. That's true all over the country. And whilst we have that repair network in place, our policy wording does also recognise that some customers like to use their own repairers. So for Prestige customers, they can choose to use a repairer of their choice as well. Next on the list, a Prestige engineer. So we have our own in-house Prestige engineer. His name's Craig. I think he was actually on the last slide as well. But the benefit of that is it means that we can deal with and make decisions really quickly because we're not awaiting for external third-party sign-off. We've got someone in-house that can do that for us, and that really does help speed things along because we recognise service is one of the key things for both winning and retaining high net worth customers. So we make sure we've got the infrastructure in place to support that. And sort of our Prestige claims proposition has been in place now for about 4 years, and in that time it's really come on leaps and bounds, and that's reflected in our ERS Trustpilot score, which is now at excellent. And if you sort of look through some of those reviews, a lot of them do relate to our Prestige claim service and particularly mention some of those handlers as well. So it's really pleasing to get feedback from brokers that, you know, the things that we're trying to put in place and the things that we want to achieve, people and customers are experiencing. So just to share a bit more around sort of what we think about or some of the key trends, I suppose, for high net worth motor claims. So the benefit of us having this in-house team means that we work really closely with them. They join our sort of weekly calls and they inform us on some of the trends that we're seeing, and we can feed that back into our underwriting approach. So we really just wanted to share a few of the key themes that we're seeing, and it might just shed some light on, you know, if we're going through a quote process and we come back with some questions, these might be some of the reasons why we're asking. So the first one, body kits and vinyl wraps. So it's really important that we know about these when underwriting a policy, because if there is a claim, sometimes it can make the claim more expensive, but also it can mean the claim takes longer due to sort of availability and getting the vehicle back into the place that it was prior to the event. So it's really important that we can sort of manage the customer's expectations throughout that claim. Secondly, it's also important to know because, I mean, some of the vinyl wraps might just be that the vehicle's matte, might just be changing the colour. But for example, that one in that picture there, it can mean that the vehicle really does stand out. And then that can make it a target for arson claims, for fire claims, vandalism claims, or also theft claims. So knowing that can really enable us to sort of adjust our underwriting process to make sure that the customer's vehicle is safe and properly insured. Secondly, windscreen. So I think windscreen was probably a type of claim that insurers tended not to focus on too much in the past, but what we're actually seeing on a high net worth, from a high net worth perspective more recently, is that the cost of some of these windscreen claims are really now increasing. So just to give you an example, so the average cost of a Bentley or a Lamborghini windscreen for us this year is in around £3,000. If that's for a Rolls Royce, that increases to 4,000. So it really is a substantial cost. So you'll find now that sort of if the underwriters are coming across new business quotes where there's multiple windscreen claims on there, it might prompt them to ask some more questions around, you know, what mileage is the vehicle doing? Is it on the road more than is disclosed? Or perhaps is the vehicle not being kept somewhere secure and therefore is, you know, more exposed to any sort of storm or external damage? And then finally, vehicle location. So this sort of prompts the next few slides, which is all about theft. But vehicle location has always been key for us due to the value of some of these claims. But vandalism, fire, and particularly theft claims have been on the rise in the last 12 months or so. So one of our key considerations when underwriting any vehicle is where those vehicles are kept. So just to, I suppose, bring that to life a bit. So, you know, if a vehicle's kept in the city, we'll want to know where that's kept overnight and how accessible is that to other people for theft. We'll think about whether the vehicle's in keeping with the area. So, you know, if the vehicle's parked on the road or if it's taken to the shops, is it going to stand out as a theft risk? Might it be a target for vandalism? Where's the vehicle stored overnight? So if it's a driveway, does it have locked gates? Is it a CCTV? If it's an underground car park, is it accessible to the general public or is it residents only? If the vehicle is used for commuting, where is it kept during the day? And more recently, a lot of our clients sort of have multiple addresses. So on those occasions, we'll, you know, try and understand what is the exposure to each vehicle at each location. So is sort of the high net worth vehicle that's garaged in the country going to be taken up to London and kept on the road a couple of days a week. So that is a really, really important part of our underwriting process, and probably will bring to life or probably help inform why we might ask some of the questions that we do. On the subject of theft, I think we're just going to run another poll. So this one we will give the answer to. So this one's a bit around our claim spend this year. So out of the prestige claims that we've paid out for this year, so what portion of that total cost do you think is attributed to theft claims? Give you a couple of minutes just to answer. Okay, so the majority of you thought 28%. So I'm glad it's not 28%, but unfortunately it is actually 23%. So almost a quarter of all the claims spend that we've incurred this year has been allocated to theft. And just to bring that to light, I suppose, only 5% of the claims that we've actually incurred have been theft. So they're a really small proportion of the claims that we've had, but they do make up a huge amount of the spend that we've spent. And I suppose for those on this call, it might not surprise you to know that Ferraris, for example, have been a new theft target this year, which has been something that we've never seen before. So I think us, along with most of the high net worth market, are really looking around how we can help best prevent theft and help better protect clients' vehicles, which sort of prompts the next couple of slides that we're going to go through now. So just to kick off with a bit of a video, so here's an example of a recent theft claim. Unfortunately, it's one of ours, but this example shows a £350,000 Ferrari 812. You can see it just there being driven off, but that's being stolen from Mayfair. We do actually have the full clip of the vehicle being stolen. It takes less than 5 minutes from the time of the thieves arriving to the time of it being driven away and tailed by that bike that you can see. So the two thieves arrived on the bike, and within 5 minutes of driving that vehicle away, and it's one that's not been recovered. So I suppose just to give a bit of insight into theft and why it's become such a big topic for us this year. I mean, I don't think you know, that everything going on in the market and the availability of vehicles and inflation, etc., have helped, but recent years we've mainly seen thefts via relay attacks. So that's where someone sort of stands next to your house and tries to boost the signal of the key that's inside to access the vehicle. But what we've started seeing more of, and the example used in that clip, is the electronic compromise. So that's where the vehicle is being stolen by utilising the OBD port, or sort of tapping into the vehicle's wiring to access the canvas. So because this method can access the vehicle's own system, it compromises all of the inbuilt security. So that means the alarm gets switched off, the immobiliser gets switched off, and the vehicle starting procedure enables the vehicle to start. So this method previously meant that the thieves would have to have access to the interior of the vehicle to be able to do this. So the act of actually getting into the vehicle and the alarm going off would deter thieves. What we're finding more commonly now is that some of these new vehicles, the wiring harnesses can actually be accessed from the outside of the vehicle, which makes them much easier to steal. So Bentley Bentegas are another example where that wiring harness is now accessible on the outside. And so we're seeing more commonly those vehicles being stolen, which, like Gary mentioned right at the start, it used to be the Range Rover. It used to be about £100,000 a time, but what we're seeing now is sort of £250,000, £300,000 vehicles being stolen, which is obviously putting a lot of pressure on the high net worth market, and obviously is very distressing for customers who are spending that sort of money on a vehicle only to find that it's going missing overnight. So what are we doing about theft? So the main things that we're looking at, and the key things for you to take away to inform your clients too, are, secure location. So I mentioned some examples before, but it is really key for us to understand where the vehicle's kept overnight, how secure it is in that location, how often it's going to be left unattended, whether it stands out in that area, etc. And the more information you can give us around the location, the better we can do in terms of making sure that's secure for the customer too. Steering wheel locks, so the old-fashioned approaches are sometimes the best, but they can be a really good and visible deterrent for thieves. So, you know, whilst I'm sure thieves can find a way around them, it is just a good prompt for them to move on to the next vehicle, because it is just that extra layer of security to discourage them. So trackers, so it's really, really important where we've got tracker endorsements on our policies to make sure they're active and the subscriptions are up to date. But also it's really important that customers understand in the event of a claim that the earliest they can contact the tracking company, the better. We actually had an example of an Aston Martin theft in the last couple of months, and the insured contacted the tracking company straight away. The tracking company could see the vehicle, and we ended up recovering that vehicle from a shipping container. So that really is the difference that acting quickly can make. But whilst customers know they need trackers, they don't always know what to do when something happens. So adding that support can be really beneficial. Faraday pouches, so that's an effective tool for the relay attacks, and that's particularly important where vehicles are kept within a really close proximity to the customer's house. But probably the thing that you'll see from us more often than not is the aftermarket immobiliser. So where we're seeing high target vehicles theft, we're now asking for aftermarket immobilisers to be applied. We're trying to be as flexible as possible, so the Thatcham Category 2 immobilisers is what we're looking for. We're allowing customers to choose which of the ones they want to themselves. But the one that we most commonly see or come across is the no-go immobiliser, and that's been an effective tool so far for preventing theft. And we're also saying that, you know, if a customer comes to us and they've already got an aftermarket immobiliser that isn't Thatcham Category 2, we'll do our best to sort of be as flexible as possible, but that's our best solution at the moment for sort of overcoming this problem of theft that is clearly on the rise. So that's a bit from me. I was going to pass back to Theo now, who's going to talk you through breakdown.
Brilliant, thanks Annie. As many of you will be aware, specialist vehicles obviously require specialist breakdown cover. We do see a lot of the weird and wacky, and at ERS, you know, we're no exception to be able to cover those vehicles. As you can see from the slides, we can pretty much cover everything that there is, from a supercar all the way up to a World War II half-track. We have had a few of those, a John Deere tractor all the way to a Ford KA, and pretty much anything in between. So a really, really wide variety. We are, of course, really firm believers, as Annie and Gary have alluded to, in tailoring those needs and requirements for all our clients and, of course, our brokers. As a result, we do offer a wide sort of range of covers, from roadside and recovery, total UK, and of course total UK and Europe, each of which have varying levels of cover. Just a few features of our breakdown cover: misfueling, lost keys, quite a bit on the adverse weather events, something we've seen on the rise with the way climate change is affecting us these days. In terms of how you would go about purchasing our breakdown product, our open market product is available to be purchased via our eTrade portal. That can be done for standalone vehicles, all the way up to sticking 10, 15, 20 vehicles. There's not really a massive upper limit on there until you get into those crazy fleet sizes. For certain propositions, we can also look at a tailored bordereau offering. Obviously, it's on a case-by-case basis, but for those brokers where that would fit, we can certainly look at facilitating that. Now, in terms of some other sessions that we do have coming up, we do have a wide variety over the next few weeks. We will share the pack at the end of this session, so you'll be able to register for any that you're interested in, and get that all sorted, especially for your CPD. Marketing support, we do offer a wide variety of for our brokers. This includes things like industry relevant blogs from our website and also via LinkedIn, which we're very active on. These are things that you can share with your clients, especially the blogs surrounding these high net worth vehicle thefts that I know Annie sort of spoke about in more detail. We also have our marketing support hub where you can download co-brandable product leaflets. And of course, I know Annie and Gary have alluded to this already, but we really do take pride in our Trustpilot score, with us being rated excellent across the platform. Obviously, a really handy speaking point when you're proposing ERS policies to clients, especially when they're covering something like a 3, 4, 500,000 pound vehicle. Now, moving on, we are going to take some questions or answer some questions that have already been popped into the question box function. So just to pull a few, we are going to get some coming through. So if there is any that people want to add as we go, please do. Starting off, I will fire this one over to Annie. How is ERS working with JLR to try and find a resolution to the nightmare that insuring a Range Rover or a Land Rover has become? Very prevalent question these days.
Yeah, I think Range Rovers must be the most talked about vehicle for the industry and the market at the moment. So it's quite a timely question because we're actually, there's 3 of us within ERS going to JLR next week for sort of a conference being led by them around exactly this problem. So we are engaging with them, we're closely engaging with them. We are proactively trying to work with them because, especially as a high net worth insurer, we recognise a lot of our customers have Range Rovers as part of their vehicle collections, and we want to be able to accommodate the whole collection, not having to exclude certain vehicles. So we are trying to come to an agreement with JLR, but also outside of just JLR, we're also closely working with Thatcham around the theft problem in particular, to try and gain more insight into sort of some of the methods, some of the work the police are doing, you know, some of the methods of getting the vehicles out the country, just so across the industry, not just insurers, but all the sort of main bodies and manufacturers, trying to get ahead of the problem or try and combat the problem, because it's clearly on the rise and affecting an increasing amount of vehicles.
Brilliant. One regarding Cat2s, no-goes, ghosts, ghost telematics, various sort of immobilizers. Some of these need to interrupt the standard vehicle wiring looms, and in some cases this invalidates the warranty. Ferrari in particular are an example. How would you propose that we combat this? I'll fire that one over to you, Gary.
Yeah, no problem. So we've actually had a few discussions recently with Thatcham. So they are looking to work closely with vehicle manufacturers just regarding the need for a sort of additional security, given sort of the recent theft. So that will probably be a slower piece, but we're happy to have the discussion with yourselves and with the client. We have heard of sort of multiple dealers sort of advising that the warranty would be sort of null and void. We don't actually believe that's the case in a lot of cases, but yeah, more than happy to have a discussion around what we can do. Like I say, immobilizers, particularly for those vehicles we know are targeted, particularly for vehicles kept in areas we know are targeted. That has to be the way that we're going to move forward. The sort of recovery rate on trackers isn't exactly where we would like it to be. So immobilizers is going to have to be the route forward for us, for a lot of insurers by the sounds of it, and we're going to have to work with Thatcham and the manufacturers to make sure that's possible.
Brilliant, thanks Gary. A question that's been asked a couple of times, can you do breakdown in isolation, or does it have to be with a vehicle that you're already covering? So I can answer that one. We can do standalone breakdown. It's all traded open market via our ERS portal. So yeah, there's no real requirement there. And sort of further on that question, which has been asked by someone else, can breakdown be added on a policy, or does it have to be keyed on a separate policy? So at the moment, breakdown is a standalone product with ERS. However, I know it is something that's in the pipeline as far as I'm aware in terms of getting that, so we can have it as a policy enhancement included on a policy. So I've answered that one. Let's have a look what else we've got. Are there any further reductions in terms of pricing for things like steering locks, etc.? I'll send that over to you, Annie.
Yeah, so I think any additional security that's disclosed, we'll always look to sort of amend the terms, the excesses, etc., to reflect that. So it's the same as if we find out a vehicle drive has CCTV or electric gates, or if the customer is going to be using steering locks, we will reflect that in our terms and pricing. I mean, you know, we have to be confident that that is going to be used, and trust the customer that, you know, saying they're going to have it on there, they will. But I think at this stage, anything that improves the vehicle security will be viewed favourably by our underwriters.
Fantastic, and I'll leave time, just in view of the time, for one more. Who's our breakdown with? I'll answer that one. Our breakdown's with Call Assist. We have a really close working relationship with them, being one of their biggest providers of breakdown. So that is all provided through Call Assist for the various levels of cover. We do have a horse box offering, not particularly relevant to this call today, which is provided through Equine Rescue. Yeah, I'll sign those questions off there. If there are any other questions, please do feel free to get in touch with myself and anyone else on the sales and marketing team. I'd be more than happy to, of course, answer those. Yeah, just a massive thank you to Annie and Gary, as well as Claire in the background, making everything today run nice and smoothly. In terms of everyone that's joined us today, thank you for joining. If you would like to see more from ERS, please do check out our socials, like LinkedIn, where we do, of course, regularly post updates, as well as some really current and insightful pieces into the industry, such as where to sign up for more webinars like today. We hope you found today's session helpful and informative, and of course, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.